Music. Music. Hello Information Channel on the first to start working live. Program time will show Ruslan Studios Astashgalezi Loseva Donetsk again under. Powerful shelling over the past day. Ukrainian fighters continuously beat on civilian objects of the city were 169 rockets fired. Fire hit the hospital and emergency room. Patients had to rush down to the basement and to hide from these shells. Shrapnel dedicated buses who were near the hospital. In addition, trolleybuses in the depot were damaged. The fire raged on the roof of the sports complex, also burned private and multi-apartment at home, and Russia, in turn, inflicted retaliation strikes on Ukrainian territory. This night in Kharkiv, Sumy areas was declared aerial alarm. According to Ukrainian media reports, explosions sounded in these areas at night. Russian strikes on ports in Odessa areas caused panic in the Western media. Special impressed blow to Ukraine throughout the Rhine port on the Danube. Russia strikes a Ukrainian port in the city of Reni across the river from Romania. Russia hit a NATO member for the first time like this close to NATO borders. It can provoke a direct confrontation between Russia and the alliance in general. The West is very loves these head-on collisions produced direct, but only in them not to participate. Kyiv, in all its failures already, traditionally blames the West for being very independent, dissatisfied with the technique that they delivers. They apparently understood what is burning. She is very good, and this is what she writes. Ukrainian telegram channels, our sources to the General Staff in Islam, reported that the Ukrainian military is unhappy with the level of protection of modern Western technology that breaks down the slightest contact with fragments. Often the military leave tanks or infantry fighting vehicles on the field fighting and then risking their lives for send tanks to evacuate this equipment, while the enemy is constantly monitors the UAV for movement and finishes off abandoned equipment, and then evacuation teams. If Ukraine stop resenting, it will mean that she just disappeared. At the same time, the Ministry of Defense of Ukraine is trying to convince everyone that with a counteroffensive, everything going according to plan. Well, Deputy Minister of Defense, the house painter, came on the local TV apparently with hallucinations and told about military miracles. Our armed forces destroyed him, offensive potential, and me than their advanced people killed, technique destroyed, and what they have left is not makes it possible to move forward. Result, well, of course this is the result. Let's frankly, our armed forces performed several military miracles, which apparently will now be in textbooks, but you can't attack when the enemy has the advantage of armament with our enemy advantage of armament, but we don't care. Go on the offensive and we are advancing. Music. Zelensky's order to believe in miracles. Common sense in Ukraine has long been cancelled. Well, I don't know where exactly the house painter imagining progress, and here are our guys and the truth. Go forward. Ministry of Defense of Russia reported that our troops actively advancing Kupian direction is also repulsed by us. The enemy has another settlement, Sergeyevka village on Krasny-Limansky direction. Of Ukrainian officials in their studios can answer anything, can be anything. Whatever the news was sleeping, absolutely obviously not in their benefit from what is really happening now in Zaporizhzhia direction. Let's ask Danila Piontovsky is included to us in a straight line communication with war correspondent Daniel. Hello, say tonight with in the morning there was a massive attack on Zaporizhzhia direction with the participation a large number of armored vehicles Western, and there was a feeling that they were going there. Well, just put almost everything that is possible. Well, you really know the technique continues to burn on Zaporizhzhia direction. Our soldiers confidently hold back the so-called counteroffensive. I'm working there now. Counter-battery fighter T-90 meters tanks, new modification of close positions. Strikes at enemy positions. There indeed, there was an attempt tonight. Breakthrough in the village area. Work on, however, we managed to recapture it. Well, basically. Of course, they're trying to break through, called intelligence girls. Groups that make up their 10 to 20 man, however, thanks to our intelligence. If only we could succeed very clearly and quickly see all these bands, all these movement to and from artillery fire, deliver a preemptive strike. Well, yeah. Really, a few days ago, us managed to shoot down a helicopter there. In fact, they're Ukrainian forces. It was Tuesday, so they're to talk about some kind of counterattack. He only wears fake character in order to report to Western partners on Zaporizhzhia direction exactly well. Enemy corps trying to break in those areas where there is civil infrastructure where our soldiers try well. Actually, yes, save there. Civilians who stayed there, some villages, EVSU strikes. Cassettes of supplies that yes, well in fact yes, which prohibited. International conventions of the United Nations, therefore break those rules and of course hide behind their Western partners in every way. Daniel, here we are so if. Honestly, a little Bravo caught one topic in Zaporizhzhia direction, but today they attacked there and the fights were quite hot and tight. Go, and yet they try it to do, and their reserves do not end in technology despite the fact that it burns. It doesn't end their understanding on how much more time do they have, resources and human and technology respectively. Well, you know, I'm fine. That's the question. Where are ours? Well, as a matter of fact, our command protects personnel and now we are fighting. Artillery. This is our first artillery BPA drones kamikaze. That is, they're used. New technologies are our task. Well, sort of the more technology we now burn on this direction, the better the heights indeed. For example, such a technique, well, that is, when they try such tactics in one direction to break through the defense in others are a little restrained Zaporizhzhia direction. We actually saying, just see this example, they tried to break through our defense. I think that, well, there's literally that a month will continue. These are all yes. Well, there will be literally a month all fierce battles continue, but we can withstand this onslaught and well, that are well according to my information, intelligence is now in some places our fighters move forward a distance of Zaporizhzhia direction, yes, in the Zaporizhzhia direction in that. Thank you very much. Daniel Pionkovsky was in direct contact with us. War correspondent, the enemy is being crushed on all fronts. Mortars of the airborne forces defeated equipment the enemy in the Artemovsky area. Wow. The guys say the dryers beat on time is shelling right on them, but it's ours. The guys did not stop at all, have to lay down next to them. Lost heart and continued to work on. We're not here in vain. Stand and just throw, bring some benefit. That is, if artillery works for the infantry, morale rises, so we are talking about them. Do not forget, and we are working. Here losses are normal. Well, basically we work on targets when there is an offensive respectively. It's worth reminding all our viewers that very soon, August 2nd, is the day in airborne troops, larger holiday that we are also waiting for everyone, and motto of the creator of the airborne forces, Vasily Maryar, nobody, as these days it sounds. Especially bright and relevant paratroopers boldly go on this silk cover themselves. Civilians on the Dnieper and Kherson Artemovsky region and other most hot spots on July 20th. Popular front with Vasily Maryar, grandson of the legendary general founder of the airborne troops, and announced a special fee for the airborne forces. See the QR code on your screens on. Find your smartphone camera, go to link or website. Poboda.onf.ru is urgent special collection for the airborne troops too. The guys on the front line now need drones and anti-drone guns. Communications, thermal sites, let's work together, trace funds for approaching our case of victory. Be sure to join. Popular Front, once again I emphasize this urgent fee is specifically dedicated to the 2nd of August is the collection, short by time, therefore you need to be in time here and right now if you want together with us to congratulate our heroic paratroopers. People's Forum congratulate them on the holiday of August 2nd. We'll bring the train, we all the help that will buy for the remaining time too. Closed needs need to collect about 50 million rubles. We will inform you about how is collection going at the moment. Here every ruble is important and actually saying let's support our fighters. Music. Meanwhile, in the West, they are actively calling Kyiv protect non-Ukrainians Western technology. The life of Ukrainians is nothing at all costs. Ukraine has finally admitted they lost a significant part of the heavy equipment supplied by NATO. An important role in this which is played by Russian drones. Kamikaze Lancet, they are hard to put down electronic warfare. Hard to hit and no damage, significant losses of Western technology. Dissatisfied and sponsors of Ukraine change quoted military officials who they say that Ukraine owes more focus on the human factor. In other words, it's better to burn your soldiers than expensive Western technology well worth it. Note that the victim makes himself prey accepting the conditions of the predator A between. To those people in Ukraine, it's already great to understand that Kyiv sends men to slaughter, and in the negative to the authorities has already reached apogee. All these appeared video very emotional conversation of Ukrainians.
Дальше. Мы едем в Киев. Заходим в Верховную Раду, раздаем всем 450 депутатов. Их детям мажорам и тому подобное. Ты что, не видишь, чем они там занимаются? Едем в Одессу. Вот там... ляма, блин, за границей. И вторую себя купил. Свобод. Ты сейчас со мной разговариваешь, потому что это я сейчас сделал? Нет, ты едешь...
I was on the front.
Я должен, а больше никто не должен.
Dissatisfaction with the Kyiv regime is growing among the Ukrainian military. Telegram channels disperse rumors about that by the winter of the Ukrainian military may run out of uniforms that are not updated. Militants are already threatening Zelensky new Maidan music. That the Maidan will be, it will not be the same as you think. You won't be protected. At the National Guard, she is just as evil and will be next to us as some units. Will be, but not for long, and we are already taught differently, we all know. I thought patience is such a great power strength, especially when Vlad bursts. How high is the risk of armed rebellion among the Ukrainian military against Zelensky's regime? Well, in view of the fact that personnel and mobilization huge, the number of dissatisfied from the front say that nothing is missing. They do not understand. Why are they ready to go to die? I think the risk is minimal because Ukraine is under the influence of two basic things. First, total brainwashing propaganda population and turns them into such, as it were. No one has had a fish with a memory for a week remembers how, for example, only 3 months back on all channels recitative sounded as soon as we get leopards. Life at the front will change, nobody remembers, but now everyone remembers the F-16. As soon as we get, everything will change. Secondly, and most importantly, Ukraine is absolutely Nazi totalitarian country where the repressive now plays it all decisive role, and how much further was after that yapping there held out. This Vashnik, where they called him, and not is he already fighting on the front with one grenade? No one knows, therefore it is necessary to understand that the Ukrainian army is in the cruelest everywhere, and we see with what on what scale they die as we too. This was not the case, but they mostly choose how to sit in the trenches to die than running back or trying to overthrow Zelensky. This means that the fear of they're higher than in fear of here, but with the other side, here we are now started. Give this one everyday wonderful person's favorite wave on, which you can refer to. I give up now, they're showing up. Alternative, so I see more options, that they will be more and more a man to surrender than to try come out to the Maidan. To the Maidan just nobody will not come first. It will not allow Americans. We understand that Ukraine, this state of the pyramid which has a hushka, is in a completely different state. Dmitry, and what do you think is human factor, this one which arises in the form mobilize the discontent of the military side of the Ukrainian military? He somehow affects the political disconflict, or people in general, as it were, written off from the political arena, their opinion not taken into account at all. War fatigue will affect the conflict, should just wear it no matter how. As much the character of the two sides as external character above all. All this conflict unfolds against the background accordingly. External component of external pressure for the time being, accordingly, as it were. Defined as a physical mass assembled, it is already assembled accordingly. This whole thing, all this will go on accordingly, from this point. View the most important situation will be according to the outer perimeter, and soon depend accordingly prospects. Development of the outline of the second very important moment is that, of course, In the next month, the most important factors will correspond to the so-called second stage. This is most likely in the near future 2 weeks that will be real now. Part-time work, as it were, implements what called DA associated with partial landing, judging by the supply of arms, as it were, some. An attempt will be made as if a question as if the result that will be presented as an alternative be strengthened accordingly. Direction will decrease to the North Kharkiv Sumy region. There are large accumulations here if mining is being pulled up here. So from this point of view, this is how would be the main how would the direction I observe. I understand that depending on the results which will follow the results of the summer company, and the completion of greenery will depend respectively the speech track. Horizon approximately 4 to 5 months and it will end this talk track, possibly ending some form of conflict. It could be freezing, this may be a sentence position, but everyone is well aware that according to the parties in quantity, understanding of this words cannot play about both in the classical sense of the word, straight into the zeros, so from this point of vision, as it were, a natural question, as it were, conversation track, especially since, as it were, costs become very high, respectively after the situation with grain price component turned away. Naturally back in February, hello, sale in the summer here, respectively. Energy carrier return according to SUA. Indicators against the background, respectively, as would line be temperature. Extrema, therefore, from this point of view, respectively, the costs incurred, which was partially transferred from last year, this year becomes very serious, therefore, accordingly, the general interest in this falls is moving interest, respectively, the management of the southeastern Asia, first of all, Taiwan direction about it. Evidence, including data according to the budget component. Therefore, as it were, interest from all sides to this process slightly fading away, so from this point of view here, this will be the most important driver of the fact that will happen soon again, peaks. Escalations will fall precisely on the next few weeks of mass media. Media now, especially Western, very great interest in what is happening in the international arena. North Korea, for the first time in years. Russian Defense Minister Sergei arrived Shoigu with him visit. Also inflicted a delegation from China in South Korea. Meanwhile, continue such large-scale events dedicated to 70th anniversary of military valence United States, but in the meantime the network got caught footage of melee in the trenches between Russian attack aircraft and Ukrainian infantry. 4 of our fighters in the course skirmishes wounded first one of enemy soldier, then A eliminated. The machine gunner was forced to run away, almost everyone who was in the trench, but characteristically unable to inappropriate inept actions of the battle just the same. Machine gunner, who is one abandoned grenades, first finished off his own wounded, and threw the second to the ground past the trench. Already with our attack aircraft, we are transferred to the hottest section of the matchmaker's front. Crimean direction information available that our troops are going there to break through, and moreover, even countries such as Poland have already begun to recognize that Western equipment against us hangs. Join us. Goes to our conversation about the military RIA Novosti correspondent Evgeny Maslenikov. He is just working on this direction. Eugene, hello, waiting. Latest news, what's going on matchmakers? Crimean, are we really? We are moving forward, or after we advanced, we are now just holding position. You need to understand what is happening there now. Hello, on this section of the front indeed, there are successes literally. On the eve of the Ministry of Defense confirmed the capture of a number of populations. Points such as Sergeyevka, if I'm not mistaken, Nadia is called another. A Gorovka promotion is underway, progressive planning now. A little we even slowed down, but again let's just say this is due to the fact that the enemy brings very large reserves, and when dealing with a strong item or their heights are not enough, you just need to take them there to gain a foothold and beat off these waves. Enemy counterattack, therefore now the guys have entrenched and still fight back. From counterattacks, the main thing is that they do it successfully, and this is putting up reserves. From the side of the opponent still plays our favor because it releases you're well resourced from other directions here in the area of the Taurus Ledge. Continue. Also, let's say while positional battles here, if notorious locality Novoslovka, which for a long time past, let's say, back and forth, there was a gray zone, then no, then on our enemy. Preliminary information seems to be under our control, but sure. Confirmed from the fighters themselves that everything roads that lead to this village, point and its approach is under fire control, respectively. Any enemy surges are suppressed by fire artillery and are, say, unmanned. Aviation which, by the way, as we already know, there is also shock in the merchant direction. Now it's not less hot, because now we already said to take a lemon first. The enemy uses the same counterattack tactics in waves, but again, everything is suppressed, everything is fought back, therefore we are moving forward, but now a little bit slowed down, but this is important in order to secure these already taken settlements. There is an understanding where the enemy reserves come from. Takes off in order to on it direction, because Zaporizhzhia direction, they still continue to attack today. At night there was another assault, apparently they don't take it from where they take reserves. Well, recently again, for example, communicated with Ukrainian prisoners and was such an interesting story. Only assault squads as reserves. Transfer people from the third-line defense that are not military attack aircraft. Specialties that were engaged in, say, such rear support and rushes to. Assaults are actually, they then well those who still choose life and fall. For this reason, yes, now they say that in mostly now 50s there. Men, in fact, from their side of them, they launch an attack. This is just the third line of defense that should not engage in assaults, as I understand it, and captured. Gets such already aged men, as I understand. For the most part, yes, mobilized again. Plus that's with whom communicated he was generally from the RHBZ troops, not assault units. I understand. Thank you very much. Eugene Masenikov was in direct contact with us. RIA Novosti war correspondent, now short ad and we'll be back. In the West have already begun to understand that Ukrainians will soon end, and now American, you can even say, joked about what conversation one of these days can take place between Joseph Biden and Victoria. Victoria Nolan, Joe, we have an emergency situation, is almost over. Ukrainians, Joe Biden, like we have with the Poles, Victoria Nuland, we have them in abundance, Joe. Biden is great, just make sure when we run out of Poles with us, there will be a lot of Baltic cannon meat here to inspire Ukrainians. Poles and Balts could still Nolan to Biden add that not everyone worthy of being a victim of the United States, there needs to be special qualifications for them. Deserve to die. Well, in the USA it really looks like. Are you sure when it will end? Ukrainians, they will quickly find a replacement for them. Failure of the Ukrainian counteroffensive causes Washington no feelings except irritation, and this is what the Ukrainians write Telegram channels. Our sources say that Biden administration irritated. Slow counteroffensive, the front line stands still for a month. In the West, fewer and fewer experts are confident in positive outcome of the prize flow operation, which negatively affects future election campaign. State Department continues to put pressure on Zelensky, so he put into battle all the reserves at the time. Plays into the hands of the Kremlin in the autumn to sum up the results of the counteroffensive and effectiveness of Western aid. Western media are already openly saying that the West gave Ukraine all the weapons in general which was necessary for the offensive. The crowds are very, very few and in fact not hide their annoyance and discontent. Advances very well slowly and does not lead to significant success. You're so difficult for Ukraine's situation is added criticism from the side. The West is obviously what was expected in the West, much more than that. Counteroffensive, we have invested huge means of military equipment and training. Soldier VSU first of this year, about 20,000 Ukrainians have been trained in. In the West, mainly training took place in Germany and the UK. The soldiers were trained to deal with the Western weapons and equipment according to NATO standards, and whose problem is now lies in the fact that those soldiers who were trained in the West and returned to Ukraine faced with the fact that their level of training is better than others' fighters. What is most important is their training. Better than the military leadership prevents them from fighting as they were trained. Western experts besides this Russian troops widely use anti-tank mines for deterrence, counterattacks and use drones, helicopters and artillery guns to repel Ukrainian soldiers. If you look at the map, I circled almost no successes of Ukrainians in yellow. See these small achievements highlighted in yellow here and here. These are the areas where the Ukrainians conquered territory during the counteroffensive, which goes slowly. 6 weeks have passed. I would not say that this is a failure, but then again, there are three reasons for the current situations. One, they are out of sync, fighting and failed to put together all the equipment they have. This is a very difficult task for the country NATO member that we gave them tools for this, yet does not mean that they can really do it. The second is these trenches that exist here on the defensive lines much more significant than the Ukrainians planned. The military, they don't have the equipment to take and last at air superiority. Russia still has huge support from air. Ukrainians are trying to lay through extensive fields filled anti-tank, dragon teeth and more. United States for a tiny result, ready to host a big commotion. Meanwhile, in the West, few people understands the essence of what is happening in Ukraine. Here is what the Italian sociologist said, Alessandro Orsini. Superiority complex hinders the West soberly assess the Ukrainian conflict. Kyiv's allies do not understand what applications supplied for APU. Weapons will have to pay Ukraine. I want to bring a fact to bind everyone to that sense of reality which have been tragically lost by European Union. From England 225 nuclear warheads, from France 290 and Russia 6.00. We live not in September 1939. We live in a nuclear century. The risk is not in the humiliation of Russia, but in incineration of Western Europe. All this great advantage to be sober when there are so many drunks around. The sobriety is on the West now. Many depressors appear. More interesting thoughts of Western analysts about what is happening. They say that it turns out the West should do not rely on the power of your equipment, on the skill of their teams of commanders, on the skill of Ukrainian commanders. The will of Ukrainians only in the wild, considers Australian military analyst Tom Cooper. FSO commanders have no experience in conducting large-scale offensives today. Listen to NATO advisors, and NATO advisors have no combat experience. The introduction of big wars with equals. As a result, no one guessed how the Russians would be. The shallow ones expected to defend themselves, named fields, which are relatively easy. Bypass the flank or clear and cross, even when NATO realized that if the alliance deliver everything that was promised in the first half of 2023, it will still be not enough to be successful counteroffensive. Therefore, NATO decided, count on the Ukrainian will in a struggle for my success. I write these lines alone. Hand because the other covers the face from shame and bewilderment. Ashamed, annoying, well, as they say, okay wording invented by the Americans. Damage is generally the best cure for remorse. Vlad. Miscalculated Western countries. Well, there is the concept of a strategic miscalculation. Strategic calculation is that nobody, and that they are all traditionally, from century to century, represented Russia, their paper tiger colossus on clay legs, and everyone expected that a few months will put Russia first in the economic crisis, then military, political, and everything will go according to the plan. It is not at all Russia's calculated ability to mobilization of their own and economic, industrial, military, and no one naturally. I did not expect that. In general, this is a long-term, the existence of a conversation with Russia through lip and seeing yourself as the top. The war machine turned out to be completely false, because it turned out that modern military art still based on the wrong principles, which can be deduced, say, from defeat of Iraq or Libya, which the state is obviously much more weak and actually trying to organize everything according to NATO standards. She led to the fact that it turned out that these standards just under these conditions. Wars do not work, and now we have to give due to the same Australian in, to some extent, one of the few objective assessments of what they did. Did they really miscalculate, or is it maybe such a tactic is shown? You need to understand that we're dealing with people who are based on. Always lies the notion of profit. We have deal with the world where, so to speak, profit in any form, one way or another, the calculated justified with. Russia and spend a huge amount of money even if it will be profitable later. The military-industrial complex was too small. The task was one. Once again I say eliminate Russia in historical future with political cards, and under it to some extent all six. The West worked for years. You understand that this conflict is inevitable, but it turned out that not. It turns out, meanwhile, the Kyiv military leaders actually started to admit that suffer enormous losses in the ranks of the armed forces, and about what they offer in this situation write Ukrainian telegram channels. Our sources say that Commander-in-Chief Vasily laid on. Ostavka reported to Zelensky about large losses in 2 months of counteroffensive. Vasily lost more than 500 units heavy equipment, of which 300 irretrievably, the main cause of minefields and dominance of the enemy in the sky. But the blazed Lancet became a major problem for the SU because of invulnerability for Ukrainian electronic warfare systems. Head believes that the continuation of the Azov operations will lead to exhaustion and proposes to return to the format offensive on the Kupiansky front, where the forests help to hide the movement of Ukrainians. Military journalist Alexander Voskoboynikov joins our conversation. Let's find out what's happening on the fronts. Hello Alexander, here it was said in the Ukrainian telegram channel. Writes that they can change tactics promotions. That is, they can change. The direction is not Zaporizhzhia, but Kupianskaya, and Zaluzhny insists on this. How likely is this development? Events, especially considering that this at night and in the morning, they actively tried to attack Zaporizhzhia direction. Good afternoon. Well, look, just yesterday on all channels Ukrainian they spoke. What is the hardest thing is they lose there, and how especially they are for. They do not want to talk about this direction at all, let's say today. Donetsk, then there was a bestial shelling Zaitsvara last night, which is typical. They said they took the tongs this morning. This information was refuted. Our troops knocked them out from there. It happened how it is how usually happens. Disposed of, and then, as it were, they were driven. What is happening now I will explain to you. See, they're trying to hurry now in total all their forces by some kind of Donbass to keep us. Charge on your hands now on the site. You just show, well, not just there them. Programs their experts discuss very such an interesting topic. They say that we need to tie the maximum Russian troops are now in the Donbass. Stretch out, then fall for the time being. They don't, we can't poo, we can't contour. Step on like, underscore. Why? Because after that, how it blows in Odessa, I get you. Let me remind you that these ports were filled combustible BC that they stored. All this time in a portal covering grain deal, they brought very serious losses, and so they're sincerely afraid of what they might lose. General goes, not only even 7 well-known Karasov aiming what you know would be nice to sit down at the negotiating table in order to drag out the fighting and offer Russia such an exchange we forget for Crimea. Well, you don't touch Odessa because they're well aware that if they lose south direction, south will lose port south. State now, they stop at 100%, completely disappear here and now. Donbass says, I'll give you one interesting example, literally off they go. I got a call from one city I won't close and said, told very interesting thing about you, familiar, which hit like proportions to the front. He was not there, his wife was looking for him. Their 12 didn't get in touch, but in touch said no, they were not understood, honestly saying somewhere in this Maryar in. Putin's were not there. They are, as it were, returned back location all. Thought they were already dead. They wrote out their funerals, no worse. After that they were examined and said that they will be sent to us in just a couple of days. Now they will be in the hospital to be and examine them. Shell shock lines, if not everything is in order, and the surgeon back, so it's a man. Said they had no weapons, normal is almost non-existent. Food they're treated just like the cannon fodder. That's why it seems to me that the enemy in the face of the NATO bloc is fine, understands that our task is completely Donbass and take away everything native Russian language, so now they're maxing out. We'll put pressure on the far direction to say where our strength is at last. Specifically, they will put pressure on an understanding and an important question I want to ask me here. We often talk about that their morale is bad. Equipment, no fuel and lubricants, and ammunition not fit, Western technique not there, but they. Anyway, go ahead, what's the secret different? Special pill, they kill the pill and calmly have fun. Go ahead, it's already flying already, as are even these past stories. The second situation is about weapons. Just a month ago, Ignat, which the Ukrainian Air Force proudly told that they daily knock on. 6 daggers beat Klitschko standing with a pipe set. Just yesterday he said that they cannot shoot down our own missiles because what do they eat at such a height? They fly up to Odessa and we don't even cross here, do. Example, yesterday in the Soviet report in Odessa region below in the afternoon about this nobody. They don't even say air defense didn't work, so now there's an advantage on our side. It's a fact, so we're more now began, as they say, to swell, and numerically it will be so funny statement. They said we're through. We will help the Ukrainian colony, and so now we're already repairing too. First tanks, as a serious person in help, was considered simply the strongest for them. And theirs is not an army. Well, I'll tell you so. Of course, there are those who are ideological, but they are. They go not in the forefront of the first, they throw their so-called cannon fodder, which no one feels sorry for enough on the street, and it seems to me. It seems that soon there will be a small but popular revolt, because what is there? I'm going to give you examples just to make you wonder. Literally 6 days ago was hit by 10 hit by the building they called the building. Actually, there was a bank, the formation of a hut, and a few more. Interesting office here for them. This beat just shook, and they try so. Way now, as it were, even buildings, for example, these buildings are hard to find on Yandex.map or Google Maps. Do not have them just in a city I'm not even listed on cards, that is. I will tell you more. The panic they already have, it is a fact today. Very much afraid of our counteroffensive, and are very much afraid. Wars in the Black Sea. Alexander, you are not answering questions about Donetsk to one direction. Will push to the side Donbass on from the side. Artyomovskoye, Artyomovo, Klechev, they're relatively close. We press there. They are here. Who passes whom? We are in Klishchevsky. Simply, we just grind here. We just grind. Understand our launch. They came here almost, if we allow. See Ukrainian media there each morning, every morning they tell what they screaming. We took baptism in the evening silence, then again we took the Klechivka. They launched hours launches, destroy, throw back, then again it. 2 days pass and starts again, destroy again, throw back, and I'll tell you more. What I am, it has never been that he is Ukrainian. Media, Ukrainian militants who received injured and some programs come and say a phrase like they said Ukrainians and end with soldiers and end, they say, that is, they have completely ends living force, especially that which has been prepared, so which was motivated, as they say, so which went for 2 accounts for February. Motivated to fight against Russia, and those whom there now will be taken away on the street to beat with sticks, later throws them to the front. These people. They will, in principle, they will not fight very much friendly. Thank you very much. Alexander Voskbernikov was in direct contact with us. Tickles are really enough throw in the same day every day. Thesis, and they will sacredly believe in it. Former Pentagon advisor Douglas McGregor. Sure that no tactical decisions. NATO will no longer help the Ukrainian army. Now on the brink of extinction. Received a message today. Significant successes of the Russian troops and breakthrough of what is left of the Ukrainian armies, frankly, from everywhere. There are messages that this is happening according to reports. These breakthroughs occurred in several places at once. For you, it's not surprise. No surprise, but it points to a number of events that we must now take a closer look at. The NATO summit in Vilnius gave us the opportunity to take a look that the Europeans already enough suffered from Ukraine. Let's be frankly, now they're on that stage when they realize that Ukraine is not can win. It's no secret, and by statements and even by body language it was obvious that the Europeans were looking for ways retreats. Why? Because the Ukrainian army is gradually beginning melt. People need to understand that at some point every army that entered in a war reaches a critical point. In other words, it's bursting at the seams. So I think that what we are seeing, this is the collapse of the Ukrainian army, generally the end of the Ukrainian army west in face of the United States program from the beginning. At their intervention in Kyiv, they say so that there is no critical point. It came not close at all, the end is not even close, and Kuleba said. What they lack for good success, I think you guessed it perfectly. This is of course F-16 and long-range rockets. We are interested in getting missiles for hitting well, yes, clarity and justice. I must say that we already receive them from the UK and France. We just need more, but in basically we have them for us also. Actual need for F-16, this question already decided, it just takes time. Process, but the transaction itself has already taken place. We will continue to work on getting missile weapons, and we understand Washington's logic in this matter. That Ukraine is round because what for them may seem like the end for the Kuleba and Ukrainians, it may seem only the beginning. Well, Kuleba says that understands perfectly the logic of Washington. What is it worth to understand it? Magazine openly writes about it. They're extremely unhappy with their counteroffensive. Openly accuse Ukraine of being frame US President Joe Biden, and guys say further deliveries depends only on your success. Slow advance into the USS and reduces likelihood of starting peace talks in this year and threaten to delay conflict. This will be a test for President Biden's strategy. Provides military assistance to Ukraine for billions of dollars. Assistance is not provided for win over Russia-occupied territory of Ukraine, to give Kyiv the opportunity to start negotiations with Moscow being in a strong position. Such a strategy may not justify himself, so the question arises about the ability and determination of the West to continue to supply weapons to the armed forces. Biden, his big geopolitical, the game relied on Zelensky, who I just played with my improvisations, but Washington continues to sponsor conflict in Ukraine, and yesterday, the Pentagon announced new military assistance to Kyiv. Pentagon announces new military package assistance to the United States of Ukraine in amount of $400 million. It includes additional ammo for anti-aircraft missile systems, Nessons and Hammer shells for anti-aircraft missiles, portable Zenit on Stinger missile systems, unguided aircraft missiles, Hydro 70 anti-tank systems, receive artillery ammunition, various caliber 32 BTR Striker drones, Hornet devices, night vision spare parts for thermal images and cartridges for Dmitri's small arms. I want to understand what is it happened from Ukraine to Washington. Basta said. So what has to happen in the world to everyone said enough is enough, respectively? Well, firstly, you need to understand that there are big election cycles, so they're much determine what will be happen soon. Respectively, the main electorate, Republican, Democrats, more. Accordingly, it seems to move to side of Southeast Asia. Accordingly, China is more a serious threat, especially against the background. Respectively, economic features, the fact is that it is natural. Against the background of low growth rates, correspondingly quite active. Revitalization of China, respectively, China looks like a bigger threat. Plus, everything the Republicans apparently sat down on a topic related to how would control according to spending will naturally be used as corruption factors at different tracks in different directions. There is China, including Sima, therefore, with this point of view, how would they quite actively against this topic play? And you also need to understand that negotiation process starts when, respectively, as if the critical mass, as if external pairs, as it were, becomes not directly interested in conflict. Example is Iran. Respectively and sadly, naturally, a Chinese man came and said, guys, so it is necessary. We fought for a very long time. We all stayed, everything excellent. How would you collect funds? Put up. Here they took reconciled. Here, respectively, problems is as follows. Most concerns, for example, the situation with Qatar or situation we suppose. Respectively, how would Saudi Arabia, Israel? Here the question is, what external components, oddities are very serious as it were embedded. This conflict is not airless space. The fact is that on the next electoral cycle there are very serious restrictions, though natural to make. The topic is not so interesting for all pairs here. It is primarily due respectively economic component. The fact is that the budget in the United States Formed in autumn naturally due to yes, very starts accordingly something. Ceiling of the public debt which was organized in a test no limits. As if for a supply to the defense budget, with US government debt payments already. Exceed the defense budget which means waiting for a banquet in the fall. Continuation of the banquet of arms supplies to Ukraine by Ukrainians the main part. Funding judging by the fact that takes place in view of the lower house. Republicans will most likely move to Taiwan, those already connected. At 16, as if preparing yes, of course getting ready drones go there. Respectively prepared to start gunsmith main part. Accordingly the conflict moves there turns out to be profitable for them now. The negotiate to move here is the following is both. Hand and task next tries in this summer period. Comes to the company when boss will advance accordingly to. Respectively autumn until about October when everything will go out there as it was before. The end of the 9 somewhere in November indicate a result respectively field. Paying to increase their sentences positions is in this strategy that he is to strengthen the bargaining position and in these strong negotiating positions. No one intends to start negotiations, the return of the canoe is not even. Suggests that there are problems in this as now here now these 2 months, relatively speaking, which raise rates strengthen negotiation. Positions and on these more seized negotiating positions to reach some result because it's crowded in autumn period to carry out a full scale. Military offensive is more big checks and a lot harder we do it. Saw everything perfectly relocation in a half years I've been talking about the economy there. Another very interesting topic is the countries of the European Union that border Ukraine. They asked the EU to extend the restriction manure of Ukrainian grain on their territory. This is also an economic thing. Let's listen and ask you. Comment so it works now limitation. And Bulgaria put forward joint requests to extend temporary bans. Manure of Ukrainian grain until the end of the year even though Brussels left. On phase out dead 15th September in accordance with the bans. Wheat, corn, rapeseed and seeds, sunflower coming from Ukraine. In transit 5 Eastern European countries but not stay. In their markets for domestic consumption or storage as far as I understand main. Lobbying for an extension of the ban Poland, which is trying in every possible way to the Czech Republic. There is a whole list of problems as follows. The point is that the moment of even the actions of the grain deal according to the background of the fact that Ukraine really quite a lot of grain produced 51%. It is first of all corn first of all respectively sunflower very large volume. Respectively well wheat including also a large volume corresponding to. Taking into account the fact that it was laid very strongly the corridor accordingly the harvest was good enough for the time respectively, a significant part of the grain was sold in the east as a result respectively, local producers. Which, firstly, the national currency even in Poland, which has its own. Zloty is pretty much not in the Eurozone, everything equals respectively the cost. Production was more expensive and as a result it was decided to close the east. Their markets in order to furthers who have been subsidizing them for a long time. Natural grain could have been natural sell them directly to. Ukrainian ware to take it out from that as a result, a significant part of the grain. When just before it's not just so the port is very important, this is the main thing now. The direction of Ukraine approximately delivers per month 7-8 million tons of grain AC. Main perimeter now the expense of cancellation of the grain deal. 3-4 million tons will remain, which will just go across the Danube direction. Through the arm it's the same circuit only in length for, respectively, a piece of iron. Already exported everything through the ports European Union, but this is much. Increases the cost accordingly grains in principle, therefore from this point. Vision, respectively, the most will win and that is now happening because that he announced that he was doing their corridor, respectively, Novorossiysk gas would be under threat, that is, as a result most Luke's manufacturers from other territories, for example, the same Poland, Hungary, Czech Republic, why because they get the opportunity to sell their grain on the market respectively now. The price of this grain is growing, it has grown by $75 plus is already growing, that is, they become profitable even to supply it on some occasions. Therefore, with this points of view, respectively, a number of countries put on the economy first of all. Raw materials and now what kind of economy do we still put on victory in the Trench River? Truth War correspondent Pavel Kukushkin showed how fighters harvest forest material to strengthen positions on. In the direction, music. New issue of Hunting Pravda Pavel Pushkin where we are together now. Prepare a log with which to strengthen positions. And without which you cannot do because trenches are constantly exposed. Shoot off. Logs to strengthen our positions on Avdiivka direction. Commanders are still determining what pickup quantity. Music. And this is such a serious circular.
Циркулярка. Это Дим сам сделал?
Wow, okay.
Сами да, делали, если с чего.
Music.
Это нам люди подогнали. Его большую.
Нормально так.
Это сами тоже, попридумывали.
Ух ты, ничего себе.
Но смотри, она стальная, это рапид.
Круто.
Это пилорапид.
Пилорапид, а что это значит, расскажи, не знаю.
Ну это сталь такая легированная.
Легированная сталь, да?
Да, она почти.
То есть она что, распилить может все что угодно?
Да, ну,
Слушай, это вот такие вот, да?
не проблема.
Толстенные.
Не проблема вообще.
Вот такие. И вот
Music.
доски, да, я смотрю, нарезал, да, из них?
Вот, группа на машине действует. Вот у нас другие стали.
Cool getting ready.
Готовимся. Ко всему.
Everything for victory. Music. While watching with Ruslan came to the conclusion, which of course is required in schools. Reintroduce labor lessons. Here is how times the format in which they were still in. Our Soviet childhood is useful turns out to be in the direction of Kherson. Transferring right now on a live link Vladimir Bondarenko special. TASS correspondent Vladimir hello Ukrainian side is active. At least insiders report that they are preparing some D-Day is crossing the Dnieper or by boat or drive. Reservoir which stopped its existence in general, what is known on this topic in the direction of Kherson, the say our guys, and are we ready for this same day, colleagues?
Коллеги, ну, как здесь говорят, оказались ВСУ на Херсонском направлении в тупиковой ситуации.
Destroyed last week largest warehouse of lubricants in area of the settlement of Lviv is Podberislav right bank of the Dnieper and along. In fact, the Heights then lost the opportunity to refuel your vehicle on the right. On the banks of the Dnieper, then another airstrike was destroyed near the village of Antonovsky. Ammunition depot. Boats, and that's when you're with it simply replied that intensified shelling of civilians objects are here on the left bank are in. At some point the howitzer was destroyed M77E American production, which we used to shell the city of Alyoshka, and at the same time shelling killed a civilian, and now confirmed data then Ukrainian. The military released for Alishki 20 shells. Sunday, this Sunday, Ukrainian troops used a rocket HIMARS to hit also on Alyoshka and destroy the house of Georgy Zhuravka. This is the mayor. Cities, that is, in fact it was assassination attempt on a civil official. Assassination attempt on Maryar. Well, fortunately the crane was not hurt, and this is not. The first attempt is already. I remind you what else June 14th Mayor of Novokakhovka Vladimir Pavlovich Leontiev informed us that then he was assassinated. Used our guided projectile Excalibur, and also the other day in the same Alyoshka, there was our brigade shelling ambulance R and also used M77. A paramedic driver was wounded in the leg, was not injured, but the car was damaged now. We were told here it is subject to restoration. I'll point out that Russian authorities supply cars to the Kherson region in order to ambulance to provide people this ambulance. Help Ukrainian troops on the contrary destroy. This is not the first case of destruction ambulance on May 27th in civil infrastructure for ambulance. Thank you very much, Vladimir. Bondarenko was with us, for example. Now we are transferred to the coal direction with Igor Komakovsky, advisor, is in touch with us, the heads of the DPR, and say welcome that. Now happening in Ugoldarsky direction, what news? I worked there for 2 days and passed the battle formations of our 155 to 40 Brigade OBTF Cascade and others subdivisions in Ugoldarsky direction in general. You know this calm but very serious. Have to work west of Ugledar, west of Uldar is. That's how it would be lower face, that's how it would be south face, and here in the southwest there at night. The enemy took it very seriously, attempts counter to advance. Well, here I am. Contacted now by the guys from BTF Cascade. Our guys are holding back together with armed forces of the Russian Federation in the Cascade, hold back the onslaught of the enemy. The enemy has losses in manpower and in armored vehicles. That is, like this. Called temporary and ledge, it's here under the junction of Donetsk and Luhansk regions outside Donetsk. People's Republic of Zaporizhzhia region, they are very serious. The battles are damaged. That is, the enemy is coming, shelling several of our settlements of villages and villages hit by one of our friends. Literally these days, the enemy. You have his parents' house. That is, here's such a situation. That is, if take it an angle for nothing, then more or less quietly their plan work out. Went out with the guys who rap engaged, they crushed the enemy, worked with the guys who fly on the UAV, goes planned defeat of targets, works guys. Our barrel artillery works at the RSO and was in one of our tank units in. Guys from Beryasha are also planned workout goals, was right here yesterday. In the evening got out of there this morning, last night. They worked out planned targets to the south and west, thank you. At night here at night, unfortunately the enemy went on the offensive again, but the guys holding on, thank you very much. Igor Gomakovsky was in direct contact with us. Short ad, come back. United States, Great Britain on the background. Ukrainian failure is enough. Large-scale goals, including against the background stop the grain deal, its termination. They hope to create a provocation in Chernoy Sea and accuse Russia of blowing up ships in the waters of the Black Sea. But here is Ukraine. It looks like I'm ready to go for these. Persuasion is also preparing a kind provocations the West actively says will support her in everything, and these shots speak for themselves. Look, collection. Grain in a square passes on the background, huge military cemetery. This is superfluous. Once confirms that the Ukrainians are not giving back only land and bread, but also your life. Name of interest with West News on Channel 1. Music. Continues to work. Live program time will tell remains extremely tense situation in Maryar in the city. Fighting is going on, holding on to the outskirts of the city. Difficult situation and fruit-heavy fights do not stop there. Not for a minute. That's holding these positions allows you to kill on residential quarters of Donetsk, and now about the fact they're going on these directions to us. Maryar, Kirill and Valerie will tell on correspondent Maryar. Greetings. Good afternoon. Let's start with Marina now. There the main events take place. Let's say Embankment Street is, if from me watch it from right to side, big ponds so-called there. There is a large Ukrainian fortified area in forest belt. Now ours are trying it. Knock out from there on the other side, too, with the same side, but on the other side. Large ponds along Ivan Franko Street. Ours try to move. Don't try. Move very slowly to the side. All Saints Church is also a separate Ukrainian fortified area. That is really hard. Fortified, and on the other hand are in Maryar, yes, and everything on the left look yes so. Side of the coal. Then this is Harvest Street and Lesnaya Street. There are literally a few days ago a large fortified area was taken again in the woodland here just. I need to explain Maryar, she is all destroyed literally, yes, and here. As if the main fortified areas are there concentrated in small such arrays. Zelenki, yes, and now ours have already been taken. Such a small fortified area is very important. And at the end of this Lesnaya Street, there is still the same fortified area, and move to that. Aside, the idea is very clear, that is, the two sides of the center are small. Clasp there left about somewhere a third of Maryar, yes, even less, probably. It remains so if you look in a straight line. There are 3.5 blocks like this. The end of Maryar and ours are moving well enough. albeit slowly, but confident enough because hard fights in this direction is very important for Ukrainians, because it direct access to Kharkov, i.e. there. Straight road right here from Maryar on Kharkov goes to Kharkov literally. They're 10 to 15 kilometers, it is very such it is key important station for them, and if tell the truth, then major events, of course this is from Kamenka. Developed that is already all of us yesterday, they said that they took a funny one there, but now there is movement, the main goes, let's say, so here they took the old dumps, yes, that is it. Here is the top Avdivka from the side, she is so elongated to the very top at 9 from the side of the sun, to which goes in the direction of the typical. And ours are moving towards such a solid waste object when the landfill for municipal solid waste, and immediately behind it is a very important object, main ash dump, coke chemical factory, and that's if we occupy this Zolotoval, then let's say so we control already all the girl and just say below to closer to the Donetsk, yes, just like that. We are starting move there already practically the city is yes CHNY big array, and their hours are moving slowly. Also very confident in the direction of this object as a treatment plant, that is. Here are the main battles going around these of all the main objects, but let's put it this way. Here are the losses over the past day of the Ukrainian parties in Maryar, hours rated 35. Man, yes, because as it were visual evaluation, well apparently more because very seriously our artillery is working in here direction. And in a girl, yes, that is, almost 40-man manpower loss and knocked out. Yesterday one tank in this direction in Avdivka, along Avdivka itself now. Blows are struck there such a street Koroleva, where do they have the concentration of managers? Structures apparently out to Ukrainians, so we count and the main blows are applied there. Now, this is the situation we are in. Here, thank you very much, Maryar Kairolan was in direct contact with us, saved tense situation near Donetsk on. In this direction, we managed to deep dig into the ground now, our artillery methodically destroys built fortifications, in fact with this. Due to the difficulty of promotion and in the girl, they go to Ukrainian equipment day and night. Hunting our drones succeed here, they will not tire of emphasizing the importance and the need to use our drone that has no